our big story. This pertains to the big cats. Yes, we are talking of India's vanishing leopards. Believe it or not, this is a story that no one has ever talked about. There has been an alarming rise in the number of leopard deaths in the country. You won't believe if we give out the statistics. If you look at the statistics now, in the first 4 months of this year, we have lost 218 majestic big cats. While we have been talking all along about the need, and a very rightful need at that, of tiger conservation, seldom have we spent time discussing the leopard. And it is this which is now possibly staring at a very, very dark and uncertain future. I have with me environmentalist K Siddhartha joining us from our Noida studios. Let me get in Mr. K Siddhartha also on this. Mr. Siddhartha, we were putting out the numbers of vanishing leopards on our screens. If you look at, and year upon year, if you see that, we lost about 331 leopards in 2014. The figure climbed to 339 in 2015. In 2016, it shot up further to 440. If you could have those graphics on air, please. In 2017, the number touched 431. In 2018, it was 460 plus. And now, we are, in the first 4 months alone, it is touching 218. That's the, year-wise, where we have projected the vanishing leopards. You can see that the graph is only going up and up and up. We are talking of the need to have a fresh look at the entire definition of development. Can development, unchecked development really be the solution going ahead? Is that the way that we can take India ahead at the cost of wildlife?
Well, in as much as I agree with Shukla on that part, development is a multidimensional phenomena and it's not synonymous to growth. Development encompasses economic development, social development, environmental development and sustainability, all of them combined. Only then it is called as development, otherwise or else it is going to be called as growth or only change. So that is one part of it. We must go to develop our country, not only grow. That's one part. Second is, while we go on to develop, the development paradigm must go on to include a lot of aspects that will be made even for the conservation of the habitat of the leopards. Now that will go on to include, that is, build some underpasses in those regions where the leopards happen to cross to each other, or go on to build elevated road where the leopards can go on to crisscross each other, or go on to manage garbage dumps, because it is these garbage dumps which go on to attract wolf, even dogs, and that go on to become the good prey for leopards, and ultimately they are the one who are going to be killed in that region also. The third part is, these leopards are small creatures. They are not big cats. They are small cats, and they can go on to find themselves hiding even under your studio as well. Now that goes on to make them very, very prey to all of these aspects.
Right. So very, very vulnerable.
Moreover,
absolutely,
the poaching mafia is going to be such that even if it is that the leopards have been poached, the forest officials will never go on to claim that they have been poached. They will only claim that they have been only killed naturally. And this has increased. All of these activities has increased.
Now, if you look at the international classification, the leopards, Indian leopards, have been classified as being vulnerable. My point is, Mr. Siddhartha, we are talking of the need for deterrence. We are talking of strong action. Everything seems to be existing on paper, but nothing translates when it comes to real action on the ground. Now, going forward, we are talking of the need for proper mitigation efforts. Marrying our urban infrastructure needs with the wildlife requirements as well, so that one does not come up at the cost of the other. And I will bring in Mr. Ahuja also, who proposed like a vertical, possibly a development model is the only way forward. Mr. Siddhartha, my question to you is, the other area that we have possibly not looked into is poaching. And poaching constitutes a large section of, it in a way is directly linked with the amount of deaths that we see when it comes to the leopards, because every body part fetches a very high price in the domestic and the international market as well.
Actually, it's a very organized crime, and it takes place in 2 or 3 ways. Understand it. First is a leopard is an indication of the health of a forest because it's a keystone species. So any amount of a dwindling that goes on to take place, that goes on to put the entire of the forest ecosystem into topsy-turvy. Any amount of it. Now the second part is essentially when we go to be poaching it, there are three aspects associated with it. The first is there is always some type of a connivance between the forest officials and the poachers who are going to fetch a very high price. And what the forest officials going to do is that they are going to treat it as a natural death. The second is since the habitat is going to be shrinking, leopards will going to have a natural tendency to go out. What the villagers going to do is that they're going to electrocute these type of these leopards.
Valid point.
That's the second part.
Absolutely.
And the third is, of course, when the leopards go on to move into those areas, then they're going to kill it. And since they know that the killing will going to invite some degree of a punishment, they do not going to report it. The last is very important.
Yes.
If something has happened, let's say they have been killed, and if some human beings have been killed, the government may go on to provide some degree of a compensation to the people.
And also that applies to livestock as well, because the awareness and sensitization programs also, Mr. Ullas Kumar, needs to be rolled out with the same gusto. The government in a way has been found wanting. Though a lot is talked about in terms of wildlife conservation, a lot still needs to be done. Can we let them just vanish from the horizon? Big question. And as our urban affairs expert pointed out, that probably urban development is required, but then there has to be it has to be thought out properly. We've completely run out of time on this broadcast, but we will continue getting you stories that no one really talks about. But on a programming note, while I enjoyed bringing you this edition of Talking India Ahead,